I would offer you coffee, but we're not exactly making ourselves at home here. We're trying to limit our interactions with the vessel. Finley will show your guys what to do to keep her afloat, but with the storm coming, I don't mind telling you, it's not going to be pretty. Finn's gut churned. The hell did that mean? Why exactly is that? I mean, what's going on? Nick asked. We weren't given a lot of detail. Let's start with some background, Williams stated. Nick nodded. That would be helpful. To be honest, we're not quite sure why we're here. Williams frowned. There's not much we can tell you other than the Oceanus Explorer was spotted floating in the shipping lanes without power, and several vessels tried to hail her when she veered into their path. They reported her as looking abandoned. We arrived yesterday morning and boarded her. She is, indeed, abandoned. Okay, but again, I'm not sure why we're here, nor do I understand why the U.S. Coast Guard is taking possession of her. Nick countered. Williams cocked his head. Probably better to show you. He stood up. Follow me. Nick stood and the rest of the team followed suit. Finn's senses kicked into overdrive. He wanted to take in as many details as possible. Missing something could come back to haunt them later. He glanced at the junior officer whose name tag read Basden M. He was a tall, gangly kid with big eyes, and not a bit of meat on his bones. He was ushering them all out the door. It was obvious he wanted to be at the end of the line. Finn wasn't keen to have the kid behind him, but there wasn't much he could do without causing a fuss. The kid was Canadian, so he was probably friendly, or so Finn hoped. Kane wasn't having it. When Finn approached the doorway, Kane was already there and gestured for the kid to go first. Basden started to refuse, but took one look at Kane's face, shrugged, and then walked through the door. Kane shook his head. No little grunt is going to walk behind me on a freaking ghost ship, he growled. Finn grinned. Leave it to Kane to put into words what everyone else was feeling. They followed Williams and Basden down into the bowels of the ship. In the engine room, Williams finally stopped and pulled aside the life jackets hanging on the wall. Imprinted into the iron wall was the name USS Impenetrable. Shit, Elias mumbled. It was low enough that Finn was probably the only one that heard it standing behind him, but he heartily agreed. That's why we called. Williams dropped the life jackets back in place. We tried to trace the ship under her current name, Oceanus Explorer, but she appears to be owned by various shell corporations, or so I was told. When we discovered this, we called the Navy, who told us they sold it off 10 years ago, and no one could help us. An hour or so later, I got word that you were on your way. I see. Nick's face remained impassive. Finn frowned. It didn't make any sense. Why send them to check out a ship the U.S. Navy had sold off years ago? What else was going on? Nick crossed his arms over his chest. I'm guessing there's more to this. Williams nodded. Come on, I'll show you.